Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics video on the channel. It is Thursday and time for some captains ahead of round 11. Bit of a carnage week, so hopefully we can get some good captains this week. Captains have been going along really well though. Currently ranked 13th overall for captain picking this year, which is really good. So at least I'm doing something right up until this point. My fantasy team hasn't been very good, but my captains have been okay. So hopefully we can pick some more good captains for you guys ahead of round 11. So let's get through my top 5 for the week. And like a lot of weeks at number 1, we'll start off with someone that's got the Richmond matchup. And that is Zach Merritt. He's coming in as my number 1 option this week, and I think he's going to bounce back in a very big way against Richmond tomorrow night. So last 5 against Richmond, 109, 158, 125, 105, and a 112. Great history against Richmond as well, as we just saw there. But it's also the fact that he's playing Richmond, right? So Richmond are a very good matchup. So for mids, they are currently the easiest matchup going around, giving away 5 points per game more than the next best couple of matchups. So, yeah, Richmond, great matchup for Merritt. I think he bounces back. Obviously, Essendon were pretty poor against the Dogs last week. I think they bounce back here, and I think Merritt is going to be a very big part of that. So I've got him as my number 1 option. Coming in at number 2, it's been a toss-up between 2 and 3 for me. I've been tossing up between 2 players, but I'm going to stick with Jordan Dawson at number 2. Jordan Dawson, obviously, has been in great form. Obviously, the only midfielder currently averaging over a 110, 138 last week against Collingwood, so he's in some really good form. Obviously, put up the 78 the week before after being irritated by Bergman. But his last 5 against West Coast, 123, 105, 105, 97, and 93. Those 2 90s when he was playing more defence. So he's turned up in his last 3 against them. And for mids for West Coast, they're the second best matchup behind Richmond. So very, very good matchup there. And I think Jordan Dawson gets to work once again. I guess a couple of slight flags for him. There's like a Hoff, tag him. Is Tex going to be rested this week? That may mean Dawson plays a little bit more time forward. So that's the only flag for me. I have thought about potentially changing my number 2 and number 3. So if you guys do want to check out my final list, I'll be doing the final sort of top 10 tomorrow on the pre-lockout chat. But this is obviously the more in-depth chat for our captains. But Dawson is currently my number 2. And I'm very, very tempted to put this guy at number 2 this week. And I've got Nick Martin really, really high up this week. So obviously up against Richmond. Obviously, we mentioned they're a very good matchup. So whether he's a defender or forward, Richmond are the best matchup for defenders. And if he's a forward, they're the third best matchup for forwards there. We know that Nick Martin doesn't really play as a forward, right? He does what he wants. He roams around the ground, gets +6s, and does a heap of really good stuff, obviously, in terms of fantasy. So in his last, I believe it's 7 games, just pulling up his numbers here. So obviously got the 105 last week when they got thumped. And then the 141 the week before. He had those 2 scores of 80 and 72 back-to-back, but he got the corky against Collingwood for the 72, and it was in the wet. And the 80 against North Melbourne was when he was still dealing with that corky. But before that went 121 and 122. And those 3 games he's turned up in really big have been good matchups. So Nick Martin's a guy that can really take advantage of a good matchup. I don't see those lower scores as... I see them more as anomalies because he copped a corky and was slightly hampered those games. So I do expect him to go well once again. I'm really tempted to be shifting these 2. I just do want to see though if Tex is rested. If Tex is rested and there's some talk about maybe Hoff goes to Dawson, I'll drop Dawson from 2 to 3. But Nick Martin currently is number 3, but could be number 2 tomorrow. So just keep an eye out for that one. Coming in at number 4, I've got the Big X, Tristan Xerri, and he is in some bloody good form. So scored a 107 against Collingwood last year. So obviously not massive, but his form is just fantastic. So his last 5 games, he's gone over 116, including the 155 last week. Gone over 120 in 3 of those games as well. He's got that ceiling, and I think he is another very good option. Just like a couple of guys, obviously just heading this week that have got the ceilings, I think. But I think Tristan Xerri against Collingwood will still go well. Collingwood, though, obviously aren't as easy. So, like, Richmond were a very good matchup for rucks. Collingwood there in the bottom 6. So, they are the 6th hardest matchup for rucks so far this year. So, not as easy. So, that's why he's slightly down the list. But I think Xerri's form certainly warrants him being in the top 5. And coming in at number 5, we've got a few options, actually. The next 3 options all come from tonight's game, the Thursday night game. But I do have the Marcus Bontempelli in at number 5. So, His history against Geelong's pretty good. So went 95 and 149 against them last year, and then a 125 and 108 before that. And Geelong are still a pretty decent matchup for mids. So they are currently the third best matchup for midfielders. And the reason I've got him in the top 5 is because I don't actually think he's going to be the guy that gets the attention tonight. I think could actually go to an Ed Richards or even a Bailey Dale if Geelong decide to run some attention. So I think Bont, I think he's just so hard to tag, obviously. He can go forward, he can play in the midfield. I think he will spend stints forward, but we've seen that he's getting a lot more of the outside ball this year, which is fantastic to see. His form, obviously, has been very good since he's come back from injury. So just getting up his scores here, averaging 105.8, including a sub-that game. Every other game he's tunned up in. Couple of low tons there, 104, 101. But I do think he goes back to a 110, 120 plus score tonight. So I do really like the Bont, and he is currently at number 5, with a few guys sort of just outside there that could easily make their argument to be in the top 5. Bailey Smith is at number 6, got him just outside the top 5. So obviously big game for Bailey Smith tonight. Obviously it's against his former side in the Bulldogs. Obviously the build-up has been pretty big, and I wonder if he just doesn't go massive. I think he's either going to go one or two ways. I don't think he's going to go. Sorry, he's not. I don't think he's going to just get like 100. He's going to go 120 plus, or he's going to probably go sub 90. I think he's either going to have a really good game or a poorer game. And knowing that, watch him score like 100 on the dot or something like that. But I'm just wondering if the Dogs put attention into him. Well, they will put some sort of attention, right? But is it going to be any tag, or is it just going to be sort of trying to ruffle his feathers? Who knows? But he's at number 6 just because he's the number 1 scoring player in the game by about, I think he's the number 1 scoring player. I think Whitfield's next, Gawn's next, averaging 113.8. So he's like nearly 5 points clear of the next, he's over 5 points clear, the next best player. So he's still right up there. If it wasn't against the Dogs, I probably would actually have him a lot higher, but I'll just wonder how it's going to go tonight. So I've got him just a bit lower just for that reason. Tim English is at number 7, so come up against Geelong. If he was just up against the Blitzarves, he'd be probably number 5 or even number 4. But the fact that he's up against Stanley tonight, a little bit trickier. So 116, 93, 98, 158 in his last 4 against Geelong. But his form obviously has been very, very good this year, averaging 104.8. He's tunned up in 4 of his last 5. The only game he didn't ton up was against Gold Coast, which obviously Jared Witt's been the toughest ruck matchup going around. So that's the only reason that he didn't ton up in that game. But he's been very, very good. To be honest, he hasn't gone below 92 since round 1 when he got into 73 against Cherry. And then 92 is against Wits. But besides that, 98 is his lowest score. So he has been very, very consistent and just getting it done week in, week out. So he is in at number 7. And as I said, if it wasn't for Stanley, he'd be even higher on the list. Nick Dacos is my number 8 this week. So 98, 116 and 88 against North in his 3 games. Obviously got a bit of a tagging job by Phillips last year. Whether Phillips just comes in to tag him for this game, I don't know. North are playing some decent footy outside that. They're the middle of the range, North Melbourne are for midfielders. So I still think Dacos, it's interesting with him, right? Because he's obviously been quite poor the last 3 weeks. Failed to turn up in all 3 games. 92 against Geelong, 6-7 against Freo, and 88 against the Crows. Obviously, the Geelong and Freo games, he copped a lot of attention in. The Crows game, a little bit, not a huge amount, but didn't turn up. But I do expect him to respond here and go quite well. I don't think I can see him going a 4th game in a row under 100. Like if that, and maybe I'm just saying that because I own him and I brought him in and he's been crap ever since. But I do think he bounces back here against North under the roof. I think he has a good game. So he's currently my number 8, and hopefully a bounce back for him. I've got Josh Dunkley at number 9, so we'll scroll down him. So there, so not selected by a lot, but he's in here purely for consistency. 96 and 145 against the Hawks in his 2 games at Brisbane. Hawks are the currently toughest matchup for mids going around. But if you look at Josh Dunkley, I feel like this is a game where he could actually excel. I feel like Dunkley actually goes a lot better in the games where it's a lot more tighter and contested, which I do think this will be. He's only failed to turn up in 3 games. All 3 have been 90s. Hasn't gone over 120 since round 1 when he went to 130. But I do think Dunkley, that big score is right around the corner, and I do think he'll go well. So he's my number 9 for just, again, pure consistency, and I do think this could be a game where he could put up a ceiling score. And coming in at number 10, I do have Harry Sheezel. I've got him here because if he's gone 99-82 in his 2 games against Collingwood recently. I just wonder what role he plays against Collingwood on Saturday night. I think tougher matchup. I wouldn't be shocked if I saw him back at half back, but he could also play as his forward mid role, right? So he's at number 10. because this could be one where he could actually go quite big if he's playing defence, but he could also not score great if he's in the midfield. I think he's still a good enough VC option if you want to go there. You could even be captain because I think he should ton up here, but it's a tricky one with Harry Shees because we just don't know what his role's going to be. So that's why he's currently at number 10 there, and a few options are certainly just outside there and could easily sneak into the top 10. The one I do like, the one I want to flag just before I go through the other players here is Ryan Marshall. So against Gold Coast, I've got a sneaky feeling that this could be a game where Jared Witts could be rested. So Gold Coast obviously have just been at Darwin. Now they've got to travel down to Melbourne, and then they've got a game at People's First Stadium against Freo the week after. I think Witts could be rested this week, which means Ned Moyle would be taking over. And if that would be the case, then Rowan Marshall would sneak right up. He would be maybe number 6. He could even bump Bont out of the top 5. So that would just be something to watch. If Moyle is the solo ruck, I think I'd be bumping Marshall up into number 5, just with the recent history. That obviously looked in great form last week against West Coast. So if Moyle was a solo ruck, he would. But if not, he would stay outside the top 10 just because Witts is a tough matchup. But yeah, so some other names here. Gorney, Max Gawn against Sydney. So Grundy obviously hasn't been as good this year, but Grundy I think matched up quite well against Gawn. We saw last year in opening round where Grundy still didn't have a great year last year, but he still kept Max Gawn really quiet. He was able to cut off the space in terms of when they were hitting the hit-outs. He was able to follow him around the ground and spoil him. So I actually think this is going to be a tough matchup for Big Max. So that's why he's not in my top 10. I don't think he's going to quite get there this week, personally. But I guess we'll see, because it's at the MCG. Could be a good game for Big Max. Lockie Whitfield, the only reason I don't have him in the top 10 is just because Carlton are the toughest matchup for defenders there. So, yeah, I don't want to go near that in terms of like a captain. Maybe you could put a VC on him, and he's the third highest averaging player. Maybe you just try and chance it and go VC to see if he pops a ceiling score. But I think there are better options this week. So I'll just be hoping Whitfield can ton up, and that would be that. Who else we got here? So we got Zorko against the Hawks. I don't love the Hawks as a matchup for defenders either. So they're the 4th hardest matchup for defenders. It sounds like, hearing earlier today, that looks like Kitty Coleman might not play. So that's, I guess, the flag with Zorko. So that's the reason he's not in the top 10. Anderson could be good against St Kilda. They're a decent matchup for, they're middle of the road for midfielders, but I just worried maybe some attention for Anderson the way he played last week. That would be my only flag there. Some other guys here, Butters could be tagged by Wagner, so I'm not going near there. Nasai's playing sore, couldn't go near there. Jack Sinclair's not a bad shout in the last game against Gold Coast. I think he could actually go quite well in that game. Rankin, probably not a captain option, be more a VC if you're going to look at it. He doesn't have a huge ceiling, but he's got West Coast, it's a good matchup. I think there are worse options. Rosie against Freo could be all right. Do they pay some attention to him? It's a Banfield or someone play like a defensive forward role on him. Brayshaw, tough matchup against Port. Same with Sarong, don't like those guys there. Jackson could be a sneaky shout against Vicentini, because obviously Darcy's not playing, so I don't hate him as a bit of a VC. But besides that, I think that a lot of options are sort of not just quite there this week with some tougher matchups going around, but there is obviously some very good matchups. In terms of my captain and vice captain this week, so I'm at this stage bringing in Nick Martin, so he'll be my VC. And at the moment, I'm going into Jordan Dawson. I have thought about Tristan Cherry there as well, if like Tex is rested and West Coast maybe put some attention. Dawson, that's my only thinking. But hopefully Martin just gets it done anyway. I don't need to worry about it too much. But that's what I'm thinking. If I don't bring Martin in, it will likely be VC Cherry into Jordan Dawson. Obviously, Marshall's another option if Witts is rested this week. But I do think Witts will, at this stage, will play. But I guess we'll have to find out and see with teams later on, just shortly after this video drops. So anyway, let me know in the comments below, guys, what you guys are doing with your captain and vice captain for round 11. And then any questions you guys have, I'll try and get to as many as I can in the comments. But if you do want a guaranteed answer, head over to patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics, where you can get all your questions answered there at a guaranteed response, as it's just quite tricky, as I say, to keep on top of like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and everything. So if you do want a guaranteed answer or a team review, head over to patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. I'll answer all your questions there. And I'll also be live tonight for the Bulldogs and Geelong game at GMHBA Stadium for the Bailey Smith game. So if you guys do want your questions answered there, I'll be live streaming essentially for like 2.5, 3 hours, right? So if you want your questions answered, head over there. Should be a good watch along. So I'm looking forward to that one. So As always, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you do smash a like on the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We are itching closer to 4,000 subscribers, so if you can help us reach that, that would be fantastic. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later tonight or tomorrow. We got a pre-lockout chat as always, 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. per time, answering a heap of your questions as well. So thanks everyone. Enjoy the footy tonight. We'll catch you guys tomorrow or tonight for the watch along. So thanks everyone. Catch you then. See ya.